Lounge with Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest is Lisa Fey, who is a global speaker and author and travel advisor. So welcome to the lounge, Lisa. We're so excited to have you here.
It's so awesome to be in the lounge.
Yes. I wish we were in the lounge together, with a cocktail in hand or something, but one day.
One day it will.
I'm excited for that. But I'm so excited to learn more about your story. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and just how you got started in the travel industry?
Well, no, I'll tell you, I have always been a huge personal fan of travel. I spent 30 years at the Coca-Cola company, and I was known for always taking every day of vacation every single year. And for a while I was married, and when I was married, we tried to have kids and it didn't work out for us. And I decided that if I didn't have to save money to educate a child, I would educate myself. So I started going on 2 and 3. Yes, you can do a 3-week vacation in corporate America. I started doing these 2 and 3 week vacations. And as it happened, Delta was expanding routes. And so I would look at where Delta was opening a route, and that's where we would go. So I always traveled. One of my old bosses at Coca-Cola retired, and he opened a travel agency. He kept teasing me that when he retired, when I retired, he wanted me to come work for him. And as it happened, I had started a speaking business shortly before I retired. And I said, no, I enjoy traveling. I'm not sure how much I'd like to help somebody else travel. And he talked me into it, and I'm so glad he did. Helping people see the world and have them come back with these amazing life-changing experiences is awesome. And plus, I get to keep going too. I think this year I will hit 77, 78, 79, and 80 for countries.
That is amazing. So a question for you, have you gotten to travel yet this year? Or if not, what is the next planned destination?
I have only traveled back and forth to North Carolina this year to see my parents. I have several speaking engagements in Florida and Texas coming up, but my next big travel trip is actually I'm taking a group of women, and we're going to Namibia in September for 2 weeks.
That is awesome. That's really cool. And so when you do the speaking engagements, what are the topics that you typically focus on and do speak on?
Sure. I am talking about how to use communication to leverage yourself and your business for improved results. Because I believe if you are able to impact and accelerate your communication skills, you impact everything else that you touch, personal, professional. It's just the linchpin of everything.
Yeah. And I'm jumping ahead of question here, but this goes so perfectly. So you have a book, and it's about that, that topic. And so can you tell us a little bit more about it? And also maybe a couple highlights, some tips for agents that they can take from it.
I happen to have it handy. Imagine that. Yeah. So it's improv your communication, 52 tips to accelerate performance, positioning, and perception. And it really talks about how to do things with people you work with in sales situations. So quite honestly, if you're an agent, you're always selling. By the way, I believe everybody is a salesperson. Anytime you're trying to influence somebody to do something that is different than what they're planning to do now, you're selling, regardless of what the product is. I think one of the big things in the book is about how to keep people talking about things so you can find things they can align with. All too often, people that are selling something sell the project of the day. I was on a call earlier today, right before this, all about what's going on in the cruise industry right now and all the options. And, there are a lot of the great cruise lines have great offers and they have great incentives. And the watch out is pick the trip with the best incentive for you and then go try to sell that to all your customers, versus how do I step back and say, what are my customers interested in? What have they expressed interest in before? And use this to rally back to them to say, hey, I know you've talked about traveling here or traveling on a yacht and you never thought it was affordable. Here's a great opportunity for you now. It's really that one-on-one marketing, or how do you take your message and make it in such a way that it will pique people's interest to want to know more. One of the tools I use is something I used when I studied improv comedy at Whole World Theater, and it's called Yes and. So we tend to live in a no world or a yes but world, which is no in a dress. And when you have to, if you assume that you are going to yes and in a conversation, what it forces you to do is to listen closely to find something you can build on or expand on to continue the conversation. No and yes, but just basically shuts the conversation down. And this gives you a much bigger opportunity to open it up for a broader discussion, and who knows what you'll find out.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and that's so important. I mean, communication is extremely important, but especially when it comes to selling or even just interacting with clients. And have you found anything that's really helpful around this time with COVID and just, talking to clients who are interested in booking, but might still be a little worried, or even months ago, worried, and how much has that communication been extremely impactful in this past year? 'Cause I'm sure it's been very helpful.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a rule that says quit selling when they aren't buying, and which was really important during COVID times. In the heat of COVID, nobody really wanted to talk about travel. They didn't. We couldn't go anywhere. The world was shutting down. There were many more important issues. So I had very limited communication with clients. I tried to be sensitive to where they may be. And also when I did, it was broader about what's going on in parts of the world that you need to be aware of. This will end, check your passport to avoid the rush to make sure that your passport's in place when the time comes. And only as people have I let them self-identify. So I let people know I was there if they wanted to talk, and I was actively rescheduling lots of people's trips and trying to find times when it was okay with them. But everybody's meter on I'm safe to travel is very, very different. And in order to really make this work for them, you got to go on their timing, not yours. And it might have meant I didn't make a lot of sales for a good while, but that's okay, because I think when the clients come back when they're ready, they're going to be confident, and they're confident in the knowledge I can give them about what are the tests and what's open and what do you see. And I think the time has proven that there's never been a more important time to have a travel professional work with you than now. And there's never been a more important time. I think people are also more aware of travel insurance and things like that than in the past. People were like, oh, I don't need that. I don't need that.
Oh yeah. If one thing has been shown, it's you should have a travel advisor to help you with these things, and trip insurance, so important. And so is it when you do when you're communicating with clients and stuff, do you use different platforms like social media, and do you host events, or do you do a lot of phone calling? What are your favorite types of ways to stay engaged with your clients?
So when I have people in all kinds of time zones, so I try to be sensitive to that. So I do email communications when there's a hot topic or something I think they need to know specifically. I also I have a regular routine with birthdays and, events like that. I have communications. I reach out to people before they travel directly and when they come back to see how they are. The world has gotten much more about texting, honestly, than emailing. So I try to text for short messages, email for longer messages or things that have detail. I put things up in social media. I have a Facebook page called Lisa Venture. I've got posts that go there. I also do a great deal of posting on Instagram when I travel. And I also kind of use my speaking skills and become like a Barbara Walters Jr. on location, interviewing different people. One of my favorite one was interviewing a guy in Africa and Kenya about the whole multiple wife thing. Like, what was that really like? And it was fascinating. But I like to take people, because I have some people, some friends that would love to travel, but that for a whole laundry list of reasons are unable to. So just because they're not able to go, I try to bring a little bit back to them through the social media, Facebook Lives and things like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. How smart of just, talking to people and just asking those questions that, the people they're like curious about and not sure where to ask
Inquiring
that
minds want to know.
Yes, that's so cool. And so I have to ask, how is improv like made your business or incorporated into your business? How have you incorporated improv into it?
Well, if you think about improv, it really is what we do every day. I had no idea what questions you were going to ask me today. And what improv teaches me, really focuses me on, is listening. And to be able to engage in a thoughtful conversation, I really have to kind of get everything else out of my head. I got to get my agenda out of my head. And I have to lean in and listen to the things that are important to you and try to tailor my comments, etc., to the things that you have brought up or you said you were interested in. It's also why I asked the question at the beginning before we got on the air, what would make this a successful show for you? Because at the end of the day, this is in service. I am a guest, but I'm in service of you in this, just like I'm in service of my clients. And what I may deem is the best thing or the greatest thing may not be the fit for them. So improv really teaches me how to listen and continue to go further.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's something that even me as, asking you questions that I have to refine and do that. So, because when you think of improv, you think of, not necessarily Saturday Night Live. Whose line is it anyway? That's what I'm thinking of.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. You think of that, but it's just being on, opening, leaning in, listening. That's really, I love that. And one of my last questions for you, just because we have a lot of, listeners who are either getting started in their travel business or still just really, who doesn't want to grow their travel business?
Right.
Everyone does. So are there any tips that you would give for or ideas that you would give to everyone on what you specialize in and how you use improv and communicate? We've talked about a lot of it, but is there anything that we haven't talked about that would be really helpful for them to know from your expertise?
One, continue learning. Every day I learn something new. And every day I expand my network by at least one person. It could be a supplier, it could be a client, but it is having the willingness and the openness to be able to go and actively do that, because I never know when I'm going to need that somebody that I met 2 years ago. One of the toughest things to do as a new travel agent was to figure out how to put all of my information in a place and way I could sort it. I went to Travel Week, Virtuoso Travel Week. Okay. And I was overwhelmed at the number of suppliers I met. And I came home with, at the time, business cards and files and folders, and figuring out how to do that. I did it by geography. That made it easier for me. And even in my email list and phone list, I may have your company name before your name, because I'm more likely to think of that, or the location. If I'm looking at Qatar, I may have Qatar Sam Smith Four Seasons instead of Four Seasons or Sam Smith. And be genuine and travel yourself. get out. And even if you're only traveling down the street, I mean, I didn't travel far, but I did many staycations during COVID and explored hiking trails and places I may not have gone before. And I view the world of travel as it's just as important to see your backyard as it is to see the other side of the continent. Let people know you do it. Show your love for it. Don't worry about being perfect. Worry about showing your joy. And people are attracted to joy and what people love about what they do. And when you do that, you'll start getting referrals and people will see it and they'll want part of your secret sauce.
Love it. That's perfect. Yes, it's so true. And who doesn't get inspired when they travel? And that's the thing too. Yeah, I think that's one thing that really a lot of people, traveling domestically, but that's one thing that COVID really brought in too is just, the driving an hour, 2 hours and exploring. Like it's always helping the creativity bloom and just the joy, the passion. So that is a great point.
There's
Really.
nothing like checking out of your everyday.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I realized too, no matter where in the world I go, is people are pretty much all alike. They all want to have a good family. They want to have a good job. They want to be able to provide on all the basic levels. We're all pretty much the same now. How we do it and what the industry is of where we live, and if we're in a big city or on a research station in Antarctica in the middle of nowhere, it all looks very different. But that's also fascinating in seeing how they do all that. And vacation does, don't get me wrong. I love Africa. I love Antarctica. But I also love New Mexico and I love Utah and I love California. And the vacations don't have to be the other side of the world to be amazing and life-changing.
I agree. I think of it, I've been thinking about that a lot lately too, and how if someone because a lot of times I think we always look at, Europe is always like a go-to. So you always
Absolutely.
look at that. But people in Europe are looking at like New Mexico, like, it's a dream vacation. Like, I would love to go there. And we're like, we're right here. Like, so
I know.
yeah, so it's just a perception of it. So I love all that. And so the last thing that I want to do today, this is where I'm really excited to hear your responses to these. So we always like to do rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So there's I think there's 6 of them. Yeah, 6 of them.
Okay.
And if you need to pass on any, just let me know and we can come back to them. But I bet you'll think of them pretty quick. But here we go. This will give you a good idea of what they're going to be like. First question, what is your favorite travel movie?
Out of Africa.
Nice. Perfect. And what is your favorite destination you've traveled to?
Oh, it depends on for what.
It's a hard one.
Yeah, it's like if history, I'm going to Egypt. Animals, I'm going to Kenya, Tanzania, or the Galapagos. Beach, remote, Bora Bora. It's all jumbled up in there. It really depends on what you're looking for because every place has something fabulous and every place has something not so fabulous about it as well.
Yeah, there's always pros and cons.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, spoken like a true travel agent with all the favorite destinations. That's perfect. Okay, so this is a little bit of a spin on that question is what do you think is the most underrated destination to visit?
I think Antarctica is.
Cool.
I think people think I'm just going to get on, I'm going to sail a ship and I'm going to go see snow and ice. Why in the world would I do that? And it is absolutely breathtaking. The oxygen is different. Your lungs feel different. The animals are, the penguins are just like whatever, and they're walking up and down around you. The fact that almost everything I see, man has never set foot on, just kind of gives you a whole different perspective. The owner of my travel agency where I first started, his wife never wanted to go. And when she finally went, she goes, "What was I waiting for? It was the best trip I ever had."
Wow.
And it's not cheap, and it's the last one on people that are trying to do the 7-continent bucket list. It's not cheap, but it is breathtaking.
That is really cool. That's interesting about the oxygen. That makes sense.
No pollution, right? There's so few
Yeah.
ships and everything. You just feel better.
Wow. Oh, that is cool. That I could see that as being it is like always at the bottom, like people want to go there, but it's always kind of the last one.
Yep.
I love that. So okay, another travel question here is what is the best meal you've had while traveling?
One of the best meals I ever had was in Moscow, Russia. It was at an Italian restaurant, and they made the pasta with the Parmesan sauce in a cutout hole in the big Parmesan round.
Oh my gosh.
And
Heavenly. Oh,
it was unbelievable.
I have dreamed of that. I've seen like videos of that before. And I'm like, oh my God. That sounds amazing. And how that's so crazy in Russia, Italian.
I mean, and that's probably added to it, right? It was so
Yeah, it
out of
totally adds.
context.
Yes, it definitely adds to the experience. That's awesome. So what would you say is the last great book or article you read?
The last great book or article. Wow, that's a great question. Um, I have been spending most of my time now reading what people call trash. I just read a John Grisham book. No historical value. I mean, it's interesting about the law and all that stuff, but it was just for fun. And I realized, especially now that I've been working in a home office for a while, but it's one thing when you know you can get out of your home office and one when you really can't. And I realized not that long ago that I was just spending so much time working and doing stuff that I had failed to carve out time for me. And so I live in a high rise that I get beautiful sunsets, and I was missing sunset because my office doesn't have that view. So as I get towards sunset, I pick up my book, I go on my balcony, and for about 20 minutes, it's me, my book, and the view. And it really doesn't matter what I'm reading. It matters that I have paused and let myself step away. And I think that is more important than ever now.
Yes, that is awesome. I love that. And where are you located again?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta. Perfect. Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. That reminds me, like, yes, to spend a little time, even just carve out that 20 minutes, to think
Yeah.
about how many emails we answer in 20 minutes. It goes so fast,
Oh my
and
gosh.
just to take it and then just breathe. That's awesome. I love that. And okay, so the last question, personally, my favorite is save
Drum
the
roll.
best for last year. Here it is. What is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while traveling?
This one is the most recent. My last trip pre-COVID, me and a friend of mine went to Colombia. The last day we were in Colombia, we went up to the highest point in the city to get the greatest viewpoint. By the time we left on this funicular to get up top, it was pouring down rain. You could see nothing. So you had a choice then. You could take the funicular back down, which was a 2-hour wait standing in the rain, or you could hike down. There was a trail. So we decided to hike down, despite the fact that I was dressed to be cute, not dressed to be hiking. And we had met 2 other Americans from Chicago that ended up walking down with us. And my friend and one of those 2 guys ran down the hill because they're little billy goats. I'm a little slower. I and the other guy stay back. We're walking down, and I fall halfway down. I slip. I sprain my ankle, and I was rescued by the Red Cross, who and we had no idea where we were on this trail. We were only halfway down, which meant there was another mile. There was a mile of height but more than a mile of this all the way down. It was the very beginning of COVID coming out, people beginning to be concerned about it. I called 911. What's 911? And nobody in Columbia spoke English. So the random kindness of strangers, the amazingness of the Red Cross to get me down that mountain. And the interesting thing, it makes me sell travel insurance differently, is I always carry it. But when I got down to the ambulance had waited over an hour for me, but they would not agree to take me anywhere unless I had proof of insurance, of travel insurance.
Oh.
And depending on the brand of travel insurance would determine the level of hospital I would go to.
Wow.
Luckily, I had good insurance. Luckily, I went to a good hospital for the area. And still, once I got there, I had to pay before they would see me. I had to pay an assessment fee. And then they saw me and did x-rays, and it took hours and hours and hours. And then I had to find wheelchairs to get home and all the crazy stuff. And when I got back, filed my claim with my insurance, but the net cost of everything was $21.
Wow.
So it wasn't about the amount of money. It was about how their healthcare system is structured. So had an ambulance not taken me, I wouldn't have known what hospital to go. I mean, it was just all those things. Wow. That is probably one of the most unusual, interesting, and educational. And my last trip, once I got home from that, which I was flying home the next day, that was it for a long time.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is one heck of a story though, to be able to explain, like when people are looking at their insurance options and you're like, well, let me tell you this, that it is mattering the level of care that I didn't even know that is wild.
And it probably does differ by country.
Yeah.
Luckily, I haven't had to use it a great deal in other countries. I did have to, one of my travel partners when I was in Egypt had a crown come out, and we were able, because of our travel insurance, to get a crown replaced at 11 p.m. at night on a major holiday in downtown Cairo.
Wow. That's crazy. You just never know too. Like you never know when something's needed or something happens. Man, that is so wild. But thank you so much for sharing that all with us. I know we learned many random things about the trip insurance and all of that. So thank you so much again. And thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Lounge with Travfy Academy. And thank you to our very special guest, Lisa, for joining us today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next flight.